I'm standing outside the National Museum of American Indian at the National Mall in Washington, D.C. This museum has one of the most extensive collections of Native American arts and artifacts in the world, representing over 12,000 years of history and more than 1,200 indigenous cultures throughout the Americas. Current holdings, including all major cultural areas of the Western Hemisphere, representing virtually all tribes in the U.S., most of those of Canada, etc., with works of aesthetic, religious, and historic significance, as well as articles produced for everyday use.
However, behind those delicate artifacts and exhibitions is an inglorious part of American history. Hundreds of years ago, when European colonists came to North America, they began violent seizure of land and resources from the indigenous, while carrying out massacres. The barbaric acts, along with imported disease and famine, had radically reduced the indigenous population.
Native American children suffered abuse at federal Indian boarding schools between 1819 and 1969, according to an official report. The federal Indian boarding school system consisted of 408 schools across 37 states and then territories, showed the report released by the U.S. Department of the Interior last week. The system deployed militarized and identity alteration methodologies to assimilate American Indian, Alaskan Native, and Native Hawaiian people.
Beginning with the Indian Civilization Act of 1819, the U.S. enacted laws and implemented policies establishing and supporting Indian boarding schools across the nation. Federal records indicate that the U.S. viewed official disruption to the Indian family unit as part of federal Indian policy to assimilate Indian children. The purpose of Indian boarding schools, according to the U.S. Department of Interior, was to culturally assimilate indigenous children by forcibly relocating them from their families and communities to distant residential facilities where their American Indian, Alaskan Native, and Native Hawaiian identities, languages, and beliefs were to be forcibly suppressed. For over 150 years, hundreds of thousands of indigenous children were taken from their communities.